Many of the speakers have written out already their presentations, like Alhaji Balarabe Musa. I know that Professor Ben Wabeze, who gets the microphone next, has had long dissertations on this subject matter. And so we'll hope that we can just get a brief, stirring comment from them. And the Secretariat will package all of this and make it part of a working paper for a process of a meeting of the peoples of Nigeria for the purpose of making them govern themselves much better. Professor Ben Mwabese.
Your Royal Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I will begin by explaining the capacities in which I am here. I am here in two capacities. One, as chairman of the Patriots. I believe that all of us know the Patriots. I'm here also in another capacity as chairman of Project Nigeria. We're here for the same thing, for one purpose. And I have just said this to Chief Edwin Clark, who incidentally happened to have been my student in the University of London in 1960. That is more than 50 years ago. Yes. I taught him law in the University of London. Yes. Just as I taught retired Justice Woes, retired Chief Justice of Nigeria, I taught him law in London at the School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London. I said to him, we are here, we are faced by one challenge: to save Nigeria.
Indeed.
That's what we are here for. There's nothing more. We're not here to cause the disintegration of Nigeria. We are here to ensure that Nigeria remains one. That is the mission of the Patriots. And His Excellency Tomag of the Hebrew is here. He's a member of the Patriots. That's what we stand for. That's what the Project Nigeria, of which I am chairman, stands for. So the issue has been well defined by the speakers, Professor Pt.2 and Uranta. This meeting is not a substitute for a national conference. There is only one solution to our problems, to our challenges: a national conference. We must all sit together around the table, all the ethnic nationalities in the country. They wear the shoe. They know where it pinches. We can't have a solution to our problems without the ethnic nationalities sitting together and discussing freely and agreeing on the terms in which we want to live together as one country. That is the issue. And we have mapped out a program for this in the group that I lead, both the National Conference, both the Patriots and the Project Nigeria. So whatever we discussed here today is a prelude to a national conference. How do we get a national conference convened and going? How do we get it? It's 3 minutes over?
No.
Yes.
So just 3 minutes.
Yes. I had wanted really, I had wanted to make an appeal that you extend this thing to 5 minutes. This is a very crucial meeting.
A special 3 minutes. Just
Yes.
you.
To everybody. Olu must be given back his 2 minutes. Same as Balareba Musa. Please, Pat. This is a very crucial meeting. Everybody should be able to express their views. I have expressed mine. That what we are here for is a prelude to discuss and work out some modalities for having a national conference where all these issues facing this country will be discussed and some agreement reached, which will then be embodied in what we call a people's constitution. The people's constitution, which has been denied this country since its existence, since it was created by the British. We've never had a people's constitution. This is the time for us to have it. This is the time for us to embody in that document the solutions to our problems. Agreement on how this country is to be governed. Agreement on how this country is to live together and exist as one nation. That's what we want. There's no other issue. Anybody who wants to prevent the convening and the holding of a national conference is an enemy of the people of this country. The effort has been frustrated for many years by previous governments. I don't want to mention names, but we don't. I just noticed how they were. Yes. We can't allow that to happen. The groups that I lead were working on a document to be presented to the public. And when it is adopted, I hope that all the groups will be represented. We will march to Abuja to deliver a copy to the presidency and to the National Assembly. It is there that they should organize the army to come and tear gas us. Yes. All of us here. Including those of us over 80. Yes. My actual age is 82. I am prepared to be part of that march to Abuja to go and present this.
Thank you, sir.
Nobody is going to stop us from having a national conference in this country. Anybody who wants to do must be prepared to kill all of us. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I know that Professor Ben Mwabeze occupies a special place in the heart of all of us. That's why his 3 minutes was stretched. Chief Audu Ogbe, which is enormous antecedents on all sides of the challenges, has plenty to say, but his 3 minutes will be 3.
Brothers and sisters, organizers, thank you all for coming. John Nwodo asked me when I greeted him this morning, he said, how did we get here? How is it that instead of being each other's keepers, we've become each other's killers? How is it that we have marched from independence not too long ago to barbarism without passing through civilization? How is it that our economy has collapsed so much that manufacturing contributes only 2.5% to GDP? How is it that all the factories you knew before, south, east, west, north, most of them have become church houses where miracle preachers do business? How is it that importation of food alone, and I have a list which unfortunately I can't read out because of a shortage of time, consumes $20 billion per annum. Food into this country, importation. Wheat, rice, sugar, fruit juice concentrates, milk, toothpicks, and lastly, Irish potatoes from South Africa. We do not eat the ones grown in Nigeria. We import them from South Africa for our eateries. How is it that the Naira, which in our lifetime was $1.50, is now 166 Naira to $1? How is it that during the Civil War, Chief Awolowo and Abdul Attah, who were Commissioner of Finance and Permanent Secretary respectively, managed the war which cost $1 million a day for 3 years without any export of oil, without borrowing a dime? How is it that Awolowo rode his old cars and the PAMSEC then rode a combi bus for 3 years? How is it that today we import everything down to toothpicks? Toothpicks. What is it that has turned our system today to so low a performance engine that the state legislatures have absolutely no control over state governors? And the local government system has virtually collapsed because of all the allocations you read in newspapers, little or nothing gets to the local governments in most states. Why is it that the Constitution insists that local governments must be governed by elected councils, and yet before our very eyes, most governors prefer caretaker committees so they can do to them as they wish? What exactly is the problem? How can we have a system where state-serving and recently retired governors are forced to apologize to terrorist organizations within our country, and they take full-page adverts confessing their sins and pleading for mercy? And how can this country make any progress if we remain what we all are to the majority? Psychopaths, too timid to challenge arrogant authority.
Yes.
How is it that when you join a demonstration, when a man in the capacity of Professor Nwabueze marches ahead, the rest of us are too afraid to say no, even to what we know doesn't work? What happened to us? Finally, I'd like to say that as far as I'm concerned, two things are going wrong here. The issue of true federalism has been mentioned. We run a unitary constitution now, where governors are forced almost weekly to report in Abuja for one thing or the other. We had competition in the First Republic, and it was sound. Nigeria accounted then for a good portion of the world's supply of cocoa. Today, we're at about 8% of Ivory Coast output. We were responsible for 50% of the world's supply of palm oil. Now we account for 3%. And you ask, what is happening to us? And then our children graduate from school and return home for a second childhood. Daddy, I need recharge card. Daddy, I have no clothes. Daddy, can I borrow your car? If your daughter wants to get married or your son, you have to fund them and rent their houses and so on.
Even though I'm enjoying that very much.
Like 1 minute, half a minute.
And you're speaking my mind.
Okay.
But I will have to use the guillotine.
Okay, one sentence. Things have to be done. There has to be production in every state. There has to be addition to the economy, not collection of checks every month.
Yep.
We have to have. And finally, if government is talking about job creation, there are two big areas: housing, social housing, so our sons and daughters can have access to a mortgage, take a flat, and pay for it from their hard work. And the other one in the immediate is agriculture. I hope we'll talk again shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Now that Chief Audogbe has managed to finish reading my manifesto, I would like to very humbly invite Chief Edwin Clark, who has been in the thick of this struggle for a very long time. But sir, I'm sure that you struggled long enough to make the comments short.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
When the first speaker said it's now 82, he told me that's true in London, but I'm now 85. Fellow Nigerians, I have listened to, would I call them lamentations of eminent Nigerians about their country. It is true, by 1958, we all agreed, voluntarily agreed, to have a federation, and we had it. But all the speakers have not told us, where did we go wrong? What is happening? Is it when A is in power that all is well in Nigeria? Or is there in Nigeria now where some people are second-class citizens and others are first-class citizens? Are we now in a Nigeria where people cannot live freely wherever they like? So the point is, where did we go wrong? Well, we had a constitution, particularly in 1960 and 1963, where the three leaders of the three regions agreed that there should be a federation. And that federation, where everybody must be equal and resources should be shared equitably. Again, I ask, where did we go now? So in 1963, it was agreed that 50% of the revenue made in the country should be reserved by the region if you are the producer or if it is produced in your area. So, and it was also agreed that every region should be allowed to develop itself at its own pace. But today, what do we have? We have 36 states where every state is holding down those who want to make progress. Every month, the governors come to Abuja with briefcases to collect federal allocation, and they go back. The local government chairmen will come to the state, collect their money, go home to pay salaries, and come back to the state capital to share the money with the government, with the state government. And the state governors have not. The impression we are having today is that there's only one government, that's the federal government. The state governments, have they done their duties?
No.
If they were doing their duties, the crisis we are having in Nigeria today will not be there. They have what they call governor forum. That takes them to Abuja almost every day. As if they are now part of the federal government.
Yes. To sack all these governors.
Each governor is the chief security officer of his own state. But what have they done? When he sues them, the police will become part of them. When he doesn't sue them, they are calling for state police. So, when the governor wants to impose on the people some form of levies, the police is no longer federal. It's very handy for him to oppress his own people. These are some of the problems we are facing. That's why I said, with all these lamentations, we must go to the root cause. What is happening? I read yesterday, I was reading in the papers, where the governor of Ebonyi State and Imo State said this country must remain together. And that killing of our own fellow citizens was not enough for people to withdraw from where they are staying and go back home. This is what they said. And I agree with them. But we must sit down. The basis of which we are living together, we must know it. And I think this is what we are calling national conference, not sovereign conference, which some people have been advocating for. We want to sit down at a round table so that all of us should be able to state what is wrong, what are we looking for, the basis of our existence, of living together. I think these are the things. But I come back. Why do you have some of these things we are talking about? I told you 1963, 50% went to the West, and cocoa was booming, and Chief Obafemi Awolowo, one of the greatest leaders we have in this country, was able to develop the West. 1956, free primary education. 1959, television. Zig with all his degrees, because he had no money, he could not establish free primary education in his own region. When Obafemi Awolowo wanted free self-independence, self-governing, he got it. That is, states were moving at their own pace. And that is what should happen. And not a country where everybody is moving at the same pace. If you are not moving, I should not move.
Thank you so much.
So, all I'm saying is that my old teacher said they will demonstrate. When you demonstrate on the just cause, people will follow you. But when you demonstrate on whether soldiers should be there or not, then people begin to wonder whether these great men have led the issues affecting this country. And now talking about whether soldiers are in my hometown. From Benin to Warri, the checkpoints are mounted by soldiers. Soldiers are in Warri, soldiers are in Yenagua, soldiers are in Port Harcourt. Why should Lagos be different? Why should you demonstrate because soldiers are in Lagos? It's not different. Lagos is not different. If you are living comfortably in Lagos, there are others who are living in penury. At home, you should demonstrate against that. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us speak the truth in our own country, and we find the solution, not to lament. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I am going to move very quickly in the interest of time to the left side of the table. I would like to urge the Akpakpa Bigi, even though he's a warrior, to make sure that he is extremely precise.
Thank you very much.
The 1 minute is gone already.
In 1898, that one young lady called Flora Shaw wrote an article in the London Financial Times and said that area around the Niger, why don't we call it Niger area? It was that Niger area that was later corrupted to become Nigeria. In other words, even the name of this country was given to us by colonialists, was imported. We never agreed to sit down together, to live together, and on what terms we should live together. This is the basis of the problem we have been having, and we are still having today. Now, like a former speaker said, before 1966, when Major Kaduna Nzogu Chukwuma led the first military purge, we had true federalism in Nigeria. We have 3 regions: Northern region, Western region, Eastern region. Then on the 14th of August 1963, the Midwestern region was created by popular referendum to make 4 regions in Nigeria. Each region had its own constitution, and then we had a federal constitution. Each region was allowed to develop according to its strength and according to its pace. That was why the late sage Chief Obafemi Awolowo was able to introduce free education at all levels, set up the University of Ife, built the Liberty Stadium, built the Cocoa House in Ibadan. In the north, Amadou Bello, the Sardauna of Sokoto, was able to start the famous Kano Granite Pyramid, the cutting, the hide and seek, thank you very much.
Okay.
And then in the eastern region, the great Akanuibian, Okbara, and the rest were able to use their own. And in Midwest, we use timber and other. And let me tell you, that time it was 50% derivation for each region where a product was derived from. And then 25% was distributed amongst the regions, while 25% was given to the federal government at the state, at the center. But today, we have a lopsided federal system where the federal government is all powerful and all the states go to Abuja, cap in hand, to beg for crumbs that fall from the master's table. Solution: we need a sovereign national conference. I don't care what we call it, whether we call it sovereign national conference, constituent assembly, constitutional conference. The important thing is that we must sit down to negotiate the future of this country. And the constitution, what we come from there, we form the basis of a new constitution. Until we do that, we will continue to cure a serious ailment like leprosy with medicine meant for eczema. Because we are not looking, all these Boko Haram, Niger Delta militancy, they are all symptoms of a fundamental problem, which is that we must stop.